Hello, I'm Taylor, the Canuck creator, and this right here is a Gundam. What is a Gundam? Well, it's essentially a giant fighting robot. This is the RX-78-2, which is, if you think of Gundam, probably the Gundam you're thinking of. Yes, that is grossly simplifying the whole thing. But Gundam is an anime series and manga. It's about giant robots, tons of different storylines. I'm not going to go into the whole history of Gundam. There's way too much there. But this is a Gunpla model. Gunpla is a little hobby I've recently got myself into. We've been building these little robots on Twitch here. Yes, I know calling these robots is probably going to irk a lot of the fandom. Let me know about it in the comments. And these are fun to build. They're posable little models of all the various Gundam mechs from the show itself. And this one right here is a high-grade model. It's 1/144 scale. What that means is that if I were to take 144 of these and stack them on up, it would be as tall as a 1-to-1 Gundam. How big is a 1-to-1 Gundam? Well, this big. That's kind of big. And as much as I would love to build a 1-to-1 Gundam, that's biting off a little bit more than I can chew. And while I have a lot of 3D printers and some big 3D printers, that might be a little too much. So how about a 1-to-10 scale one? That should be pretty fun. What's that? Oh, these are lav mics. You're supposed to actually wear these instead of clipping them onto a random object. Oh, then why are the other YouTubers doing it that way? Oh, okay. So let's take my fleet of 3D printers here, a whole bunch of plastic, and let's go ahead and make ourselves a 1/10 scale Gundam. For the record, it's gonna be as tall as me. So we got a lot to do here. Let's get started. So first things first, we're gonna need files to print this, and there's actually not as many files out there as I thought there would be. I'm wondering if there's something to do with copyright or interest or what. For example, I do know that, for example, Games Workshop is very protective of their IP, as Galactic Army has recently found out. So I wonder if that kind of has to play to why there's not as many 3D printable Gundam models out there as I thought there would be, but I did find a nice set of files. I'll have them linked in the video description below. And those files are for a 1/20th scale Gundam. So for us to make a 1/10th scale Gundam, well, we're just gonna print everything at 200%. Will that lead to some problems? Yes, but we'll get over those hurdles when we get to that. So we've decided on our files. We need to start printing. What are we gonna use to print everything? Well, this is where you're gonna have to make a decision. Obviously, if you have one printer, you're gonna use that one printer. I have a lot of different 3D printers, but there is a lot of parts for this project, over 300. So I'm gonna use my Prusas. Do I have faster printers? Yes. Do I have larger printers? Yes. But my Prusas are Prusas, and they all just work. And they're the printer I have the most of one single type that is homogeneous. What does that mean? Well, essentially, with all these different parts being printed in all kinds of different filaments, I really don't want to be sitting there tweaking and tuning settings for each printer. I want to be able to take whatever file's next on the list that I need to print, throw it on whatever printer has the filament loaded at that moment, hit slice with the default settings, turn on auto support, and just let it do its thing. I don't want to be faffing about dealing with tweaking and tuning stuff for this many parts. I just want printer go burr, parts come out. So we are using all my Prusa printers for this project. We're using the Prusa XL, which is going to come really handy when printing stuff with support, because with the Prusa XL, we're able to print dissimilar materials. That means the supports come off real nice. And then we're also going to be using my 2-core ones that we have out here in the garage. We're also going to be using a Prusa Mark IV-S that I have downstairs as well. Some of these printers do have hardened aftermarket nozzles on them. I believe 2 of them have obsidian nozzles from E3D. That's going to come really handy with printing our CF PET-G. And that's right, we are printing everything here in PET-G. Again, huge shout out to Prusa for providing the filament for this build series. We are using some Prusament and some Buddy 3D filament, and we are printing everything in PETG. So why PETG filament? Well, several reasons. First off, I'm hoping to have this project done for 3D Printopia and be able to show it off there, which means I'm gonna have to drive it for about 8 or 9 hours to get it there, which means it's gonna be in my car. The last thing I wanna do is print in a material that if I leave some parts in my car on a hot day, stuff's going to melt. I really don't want that to happen. My garage gets pretty toasty here in the summer. Yes, I know there are some high temperature PLAs out there. I don't have a lot of experience with them yet. I don't really print a lot of PLA to begin with. I really just do not want to risk printing this stuff in a material where all this wonderful work can eventually just go bleh if it gets a little toasty out. Also, why not ABS? You guys know me, I love ABS and ASA. I love those plastics. Couple reasons with that, but namely the fact that all my Prusas aren't enclosed. My Prusa XL and my Mark IV, they're inside my house. I don't have those enclosed. I've moved all my printers that I print ABS with out into my garage here. These are all my enclosed printers. So I needed a material that could print open air, especially with the XL. Also, I wanted to be able to print dissimilar materials so I can print with supports and have them come off very easily on the Prusa XL. PLA and PETG work really good with that. So I'm printing all my parts in PETG plastic, and on the XL, I'm using PLA supports. And yes, I know you can use, when printing with PLA supports with PETG parts, you could just use PLA for the interface layer. You don't have to make the whole support out of PLA, but I have a lot of junk old PLA I need to get rid of, so I'm using that as for all the support material. That way I'm saving the more expensive CF PETG for just the printed parts themselves, for example. Also, another goal of this project is very minimal post-processing. I have done projects like this T45 power armor set I'm working on right now, where I'm having to bondo and paint and weather. I don't want to be doing any of that with this project. I want the parts to come off the printers, clean up supports, clean up any brim, flashing, etc., and put the part together. I really don't want to be doing that, so I've sourced filaments that are the right colors for the parts, so essentially I could just print them in the color they need to be, take them off the printer, put them on the Gundam. Easy peasy. And there is a lot of parts to this project. I have printers right now printing parts for the next batch of assembly I'm going to be doing. Pro tip, do not do what I did the first time and wait until you have a bunch of parts printed before cleaning them up. Clean the parts up as they come off the printers. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a giant box of parts that need support and brim and flashing cleaned up, and it gets really annoying really quick. So clean up your parts as you take them off the printer, and then we can start building. We'll start with the arms. This is the left arm right here, and for the assembly, it's relatively simple. These parts are designed to go together very much akin to a gun plug kit. So that means we actually do have some decent mobility in these joints. The elbow joint moves, the wrist rotates. I even have some movement in the fingers here. We even have on the shoulder joint itself the ability to pivot and rotate. So we actually have some pretty decent movement out of this model. This is obviously not like a suit you can wear. It's going to stand alone. It's going to be freestanding. It does need support for it to stand upright. It's not a freestanding model, especially with the weight. This is going to be a very heavy build when we're all done here, even at minimal infill settings. And putting together is pretty easy. There's a nice set of instructions that come with these files. This is a paid file set, by the way, and you just start putting everything together. Now, some problems that we ran into right off the bat. Everything here is scaled up 200%. I've only printed one part so far where I forgot to scale it up, so luckily things have been good so far in that regard. But the problem is fitment. Everything here you see is held together pretty well. Nothing's falling apart, but we kind of had to fake it a little bit. We had to do some finessing here to make everything fit. Two things that actually came in really handy for that: tape and shoe goop. For example, on the fingers here, there's no locking mechanism for the fingers. They're just dowel and hole essentially. And as you can see here, we do have movement in the fingers. Nothing's falling apart if I shake it, but the parts dry, they just slotted together and fell apart. There was nothing to hold it there. So I used shoe goo. I bought this stuff for $1 at the dollar store. It's like a gummy rubber cement type goop. I don't know, it's shoe goop. But what I did was I used it to fill the void. So essentially I would splurge a little shoe goop in the hole, put the two parts together and wipe off any excess. And as the part dried, I would just kind of occasionally move it I would come out in the garage every couple hours and just kind of move it. So that way the glue kind of just gummied up the joint. It's not a super stiff joint. If you really want to, you can disassemble stuff. But for something that's just gonna sit there and you wanna be able to pose it into a position, hey, it works pretty good. And the trick works in the ball joints as well. Just essentially splooge a little shoe goop in there, move the ball around, take it out, let it dry. That adds a little bit of thickness to the ball joint, and then you can put it back together and it kind of locks in place. Again, these parts are designed to just snap together under friction, and I'm assuming if printed in PLA at 100% scale, it would work a lot better. Yes, before I get comments below, you can go into the slicer and adjust settings to expand X, Y, and whatever for compensation. I did not want to be doing that for all the different parts here because I'm kind of worried if I change the dimensions in one way, it'll affect fitment in another way. So we're doing all the fitment easing in post-printing. So we did that. For some of the bigger joints, like the elbow joints here, what we're using to shim everything up is masking tape. Blue painter's tape. I bought a set on Amazon of pinstriping tape, essentially, so it comes in different sizes and different widths, and this is really good. Essentially, you just kind of wrap it around the joint that you need it to stiffen up, and then when you put your part on, you just kind of wedge it in there, and it now is, you know, stiffer. And if you wanted a stiffer fit, you put a little bit more tape. If you want a looser fit, you use a little less tape. It's actually a pretty simple trick. And I like having the different widths of tape because you can ensure that you don't see the tape sticking out from any of the joints. So that allows you to have a pretty stiff joint that'll hold position relatively easy, and you still have the freedom of movement. But obviously not everything here is locked together. Some stuff I do have the ability to pop it out, so you can take a look at it. The original model is actually pretty cool because it's designed where all pretty much this white armor for the Gundam comes off. Unfortunately, because of the type of way I'm printing this at a larger scale with the fitment issues and everything, a lot of this is being permanently glued together. So I am using, to help with that, Gloop here from 3D Gloop. I'll have a link for this stuff in the video description below with a discount code as well. Use code Canuck. So I do want to give a shout out to Gloop for sending over some Gloop for this project. It's really good stuff. Make sure you're wearing gloves and a mask in a well-ventilated area when using it. You don't want that stuff on your skin, but it just makes plastic parts turn into one plastic part. It's great stuff. So another reason I'm gluing most of this together is also the fact that I will be bringing this around, hopefully, to different events. People will be touching it. It will be transported. I don't want it constantly falling apart and having to put it back together. So while I am gonna have mobility in the joints, and I'll have some parts, you know, like this little wrist part that comes up so you can see the Earth Space Defense Force logo and all that, most of this will be kind of semi-permanently attached together. So that's one arm. We have the other arm over there, but before we do that, let's make some room and get the body up on the shelf. You gotta use some 1, 2, 3 blocks here. By the way, if you don't have a set of 1, 2, 3 blocks, go buy some. They are super handy to have. They're just one of those things, especially if you do projects. They're just, you can use them in a million different ways. In this case, I'm using them to just kind of hold up the part here because there's a ball joint under here and I don't have the waist parts printed yet. They're printing right now. So I needed something to space it up. So 1, 2, 3 blocks come in handy for that. But also, when glooping this all together, you need to be able to hold stuff in position, brace stuff, hold stuff in certain angles. So you're gonna need clamps. 1, 2, 3 blocks come in handy for just kind of holding stuff in certain positions. And yes, this is getting really big really quick. So this is the body of the Gundam. And for those curious at home, as of right now, this body part here weighs 4.7 kilograms. Each arm, I believe, is around 2.8 kilograms right now. So we're at about 20 pounds of printed parts easily already. This is without the head, without the waist, without the legs, and without the stand. It's gonna get pretty heavy. Now this part is really cool and unfortunately a little bit sad. While building this, and we did build this on a channel member stream, by the way, so if you're a channel member or Patreon supporter, which is the best way to help support this channel, the content I create and the things I do. So if you do want to become a channel member or Patreon supporter, check out the links in the video description below, or just like the smash button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. You're not going to want to miss out on the rest of this project. But while building this looked really cool because underneath all these plastic parts, there's a whole like skeletal frame that I printed in CF PETG. Some really cool, intricate parts that just show you how far we've kind of come as how well an FDM printer can print some pretty intricate parts when you have the right support settings and a very competent machine. But unfortunately, you can't really see any of that because it's all hidden under the armor here. I do have some parts that still move a little bit, and the front part here does kind of pivot, so you can see the core fighter under there. But really, all the really cool printed parts are hidden by the armor. Now, the armor looks cool, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, it's hiding a lot of the magic underneath the hood. Now, other things too, these vents are supposed to move, but I did glue them in place just because there wasn't really a way to stiffen up that movement there to lock them in place, but they are supposed to move, but I glued them in place. Our head here does have a neck joint. I haven't obviously built the head yet. There's no head on it. I would have to zoom out to a wider angle once I put the head on here, but we do have a pivot point in the head, and then we do have mounting points for the arms and the backpack. We don't have the backpack built yet, so we'll skip that, but let's go ahead and put the arms on this guy now. And this is gonna get real big real quick. Here. So yeah, as I've said, it gets really big really quick. We don't have a hat on it, so we'll just do that for now. So yeah, as you can see here, just for reference, there's our 1/144 scale Gundam sitting on our 1/10 scale partially assembled Gundam in its current Geodude configuration. The printers are busy printing the rest of the parts so we can finish putting this together. The next part in this build series, if all goes well, will be the waist and the legs. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have the parts finished printing for that. I'll be able to slap those together and we can continue with this build series. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to Prusa for the filament that they provided for this build series. Also disclosure, while I am printing all the parts on Prusa printers, they were provided for me prior to doing this project for testing, evaluation, review, and for content making some of those printers. Some I have purchased myself. And also, full disclosure, I want to give a huge shout out to Gloop for providing some of the adhesives that we are using for this build series. Check out both of those companies in the link in the video description below and save some money on your Gloop order using code Canuck as well. I can't wait to get this done. This is the first time in a while I am super excited to get a project wrapped up because it's one of those things when you have a box of parts and you're like, that'll be cool once you start getting it built. But then once you have this and you look at it and it's like, this is coming together way better than you thought it would. I'm excited to get this done. I'm excited to get this done. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. You're not gonna wanna miss out on the rest of this project. So yeah, I'm Taylor Canuck Creator. I hope you enjoyed this video and cheers.